Welcome students. As we all know that there are some legal compulsions in the compensation. So there are various laws that are applicable in the compensation. We will discuss those laws further in this module. Hello students. Today we will study about Payment of Wages Act 1936. The Payment of Wages Act 1936 is a central legislation, and the objective of this act is to provide for a speedy and effective remedy to the employees in respect of their claims that arise out of some illegal deductions or unjustified delay in payment of wages. What are the main objective of the act? The main objective of this act is to ensure regularity of payment. Regularity of payment here means that all the employees should be paid on time. Ensuring payment in legal tender. Ensuring payment in legal tender means here that the payment should be made either in check or through transferring it into the account of the employee. It also prevents from any arbitrary deductions. This means that no unauthorized deductions from the wages of the employee. Restricting employees' right to impose fine. No unnecessary or unauthorized fine should be imposed from the employee's wages or salary. It also provides a remedy to the workers. The main features of the Act is that the Act has been enacted with the intention of ensuring timely payment of wages to the workers and for payment of wages without unauthorized deductions. The salary in the factories or establishment employing less than 1,000 workers is required to be paid by 7th of every month, and in other cases where there are more than 1,000 workers can be paid by 10th of every month. Minimum Wages Act 1948 is the first labor legislation in the country that deals with the fixation of minimum rates of wages for workers employed in different employments, including agriculture. It was passed for the welfare of laborers, and this legislation enables both the central as well as the state government to fix minimum rate of wages that has to be paid to the employees in selected number of industries. The main objective of the act is basically to determine what are the minimum wages that has to be paid to the employees in different industries and trade where labor organizations are non-existent or ineffective. It also helps in dealing with preventing the exploitation of labor. It also deals with fixation of fair wages for preventing any industrial dispute. The scope and coverage is that it is applicable to all the employees engaged to do any kind of work, whether it is skilled or unskilled, manual or clerical, or whether it is in the field of or sector of agriculture. The Act is applicable to the whole of India. Now I am going to discuss about the salient features of the Act, that is Minimum Wages Act 1948. The Act provides for the fixation of minimum time rate of wages, minimum piece rate of wages, a guaranteed time rate, an overtime rate. All these rates are fixed for different occupations and for different laborers. Now this minimum rate of wages consists of both basic rate of wages and a cost of living allowance. Earlier, that is, before the amendment of the Act, the wages were also paid in cash. But after the amendment, that was in 2017, the wages has to be only credited through the bank account or has to be paid through check. The establishments are required to maintain registers and record in a prescribed manner for proper documentation of all these points. The Act also provides for appointment of inspectors and authorities to hear and decide claims arising out of the payment of wages. Employee State Insurance Act 1948 was first of such measures that was adopted in India to provide social insurance to the laborers. It was introduced with a scheme of compulsory insurance against certain risks. Those risks were like sickness, maternity, employment injuries, disablement, or even death. There had some contribution that is to be made for the purpose of getting benefit under this act. Now, contribution means the sum of money that is payable to the corporation by the principal employer in respect of an employee, and it also includes any amount payable by or on behalf of the employee in accordance with the provisions of the act. Coming to what are the contributions that has to be paid. Now, ESI scheme being contributory in nature, both the employers as well as the employee have to pay their contributions at a specified rate. The rates are revised from time to time, and the current rate that an employee has to pay is 0.75% of his wages. The employer has to contribute 3.25% of the wages paid or payable in respect of the employees in every wage period. Now, employees whose average daily wages during the wage period are less than rupees 40 are exempted from making any contribution, but they are covered under the Act. There are some benefits that are covered under the ESI Act. Sickness benefit, maternity benefit, medical benefit, disablement benefit. Now, what is sickness benefit? Sickness benefit are the periodical cash payments that are made to an insured person provided his sickness is certified by appointed medical practitioner. Maternity benefit consists of periodical payments to an insured woman for confinement, miscarriage, premature childbirth. Medical benefits are also there, and these schemes provide full range of medical care to an insured person and his family through a network of ESI dispensaries, panel clinic, diagnostic centers and ESI hospitals that are there in the country. All insured persons and members of their family are entitled to free, full, comprehensive medical care under this scheme. Disablement benefit is also payable in the form of periodical payments to an insured person suffering from disablement as a result of employment injury sustained, but a certificate from an authority has to be given. And the insured employees are entitled to disablement benefit from the date of their coming into insurable employment, even if no contribution has been paid. Well, there are different kinds of disablement, and accordingly the payment is made. Like for temporary disablement, it is a full rate after a period of 3 days. If the disablement continues, then there is total permanent rate at a full rate for life. Then there is partial. Apart from certain benefits, funeral expenses are also covered under this act. If an insured employee dies, the eldest surviving member of his family or any person who is incurring the expenditure of funeral of the deceased employee is entitled to a reimbursement of rupees 10,000. And there are some payment of benefits in case of death. If an employee dies during any period for which he is entitled to a cash benefit, such amount is payable including the day of his death. The amount will be paid to the nominee. If there is no nomination, then the legal representative of the deceased employee can take the benefit. Payment of Gratuity Act 1972. What is gratuity? Gratuity is a kind of retirement benefit to the workman. It is that lump sum payment that is made to an employee who has rendered a long and unblemished service to the employer and thereby contributed to the prosperity of the employer. The employees are entitled to claim gratuity as a right, as a matter or right. Gratuity is basically defined the benefit plan given by the employer to the employee for the services that he has rendered continuously, but he should have minimum worked for 5 years or more. It is a monetary benefit usually given at the time of retirement, resignation, but the only condition is that the employee should have worked for 5 years or more. The main objective of the Act is to help the employee after retirement, after maybe this can be a result of physical disablement, death, or even resignation. Now this shall apply to the establishments like every factory, mine, oil field, plantation, railway company, port, shop, establishment, and such classes of employment and establishments are covered under the Gratuity Act. According to Payment of Gratuity Act 1972, an employee is eligible to receive gratuity if he has rendered continuous service for at least 5 years with the organization. Now, this gratuity is payable to the employee as discussed on superannuation, retirement, or resignation. However, there is an exemption where the condition of working continuously for 5 years with the organization is not applicable, which we will further discuss in the class. How is gratuity calculated? The rule suggests that once an employee becomes eligible to receive gratuity, he can apply within 30 days from the date it becomes payable. But there are some calculations in different establishments. That is, in case of non-seasonal establishment, gratuity is payable at the rate of 15 days wages last drawn by the employee for every completed year of service. Now this last drawn salary can be calculated as basic salary has to be taken plus his DA, that is last drawn salary, basic salary plus DA into number of completed year of service into 15 divided by 26. In case of piece rated employee, daily wage are computed on the average of total wages received by him for a period of 3 months immediately preceding the termination of employment, and overtime wages are not taken into account. In case of an employee in a seasonal establishment, he is entitled to gratuity at the rate of 7 days of wages for each season. However, the amount of gratuity payable to an employee should not exceed rupees 10 lakh. This was amended in the year 2010. The Employees Provident Fund and Miscellaneous Provision Act is an important piece of labor welfare legislation enacted by the Parliament to provide social security benefits to the worker. Now, this benefit can be framed under three categories. That is, there are three benefits that can be given: contributory provident fund, pensionary benefits to the employee and family members, and the insurance cover to the members of the provident fund. The act basically applies to the factories or the establishment that falls into six specified industries which employs 20 or more persons from the date of setup. This is applied to industries like cement, cigarette, textile, artificial matches, edible oil, sugar industry, heavy and fine chemical, fertilizer industries, etc. But the very important point that has to be noted is that an employee who is drawing less than 15,000 salary is eligible for EPF scheme, that is Employee Provident Fund scheme. But for that he has to make a contribution. The employer and the employee both has to contribute equally, and that is 12% of the employee's basic salary and dearness allowance towards the EPF scheme. Now this 12% contribution is again split into two categories, that is one into EPF contribution and second into EPS contribution. EPF contribution is Employee Provident Fund contribution, that is 3.67%, and EPS contribution is Employee Pensionary Scheme contribution, that is 8.33%. The rate of interest on the Provident Fund accumulation is fixed by the central government in consultation with the Central Board of Trustees, and the current rate is 8.5%. A member is authorized to withdraw full amount standing to his credit in the event of retirement or maybe some accident or partial incapacity. He can withdraw the amount. Partial withdrawals are also permitted in cases like construction or purchase of house, illness, marriage of the employee or the dependents, higher education of the children, etc. The Payment of Bonus Act 1965. The Payment of Bonus Act provides for the payment of bonus to the persons employed in certain establishment on the basis of profit or on the basis of production or productivity. So basically, bonus is connected with profit. So it becomes mandatory for an employer to pay bonus to the employees so that, and specifically who is drawing less than 21,000 salary. The Act does not apply to following certain establishments like employees of LIC Corporation of India, employees who are employed by Indian Red Cross Society, employees of educational institutions, institutions not for profit organizations, IFCI, UTI, RBI, IDBI, etc. It is applicable to every factory, every other establishment in which 20 or more persons are employed. Employees drawing a remuneration of rupees 21,000 or more and those who have worked for less than 30 days are not eligible to receive the bonus under this Act. Bonus to be paid within 8 months from the expiry of the accounting year. An employee is disqualified from receiving the bonus under the Act if he or she is dismissed from the services because of some fraud or some misconduct, violent behavior in the establishment or theft, misappropriation of any property of the establishment. Minimum bonus to be paid is 8.33% and maximum bonus is 20% out of the profit that the employer has to pay. The Equal Remuneration Act 1976 in India was enacted to prevent discrimination between the workers on grounds of gender. It provides for payment of equal remuneration to both men and women workers for same kind of similar nature of work and for the prevention of discrimination against women in matters of the employment. Every employer covered under this Act shall pay the employee's remuneration in cash or kind at a rate which shall not be less favorable to the other gender. No employer shall be allowed to reduce the remuneration of any worker in order to comply with the provisions of this Act. While employees are recruited for the work which is of similar kind or similar nature, no discrimination will be made on the basis that it is a woman who would be recruited or a man. This provision is also extended to activities after the recruitment, that is promotion, training or transfer. The reservation made towards SC/ST, ex-servicemen, retrenched employees, any other class or category of persons will not be affected by this provision. Well, an advisory committee has to be formed, out of which 10 members has to be there and half of them shall be women, and the committee shall focus on providing its advice for increasing the employment opportunities for women, hours of work, nature of work and such other matters. Therefore, every employer is also required to maintain registers and other documents in relation to the workers employed by him.